Not too long ago, I made a video talking about the Song of Welcome Moons update. I mentioned in that video that both the new artifact sets have strong connections with that event, and today, I want to fulfill that promise and give you in more depth on what these artifacts talk about. You guys might remember the new factions mentioned in the web event, and while not all of them are mentioned in these artifact sets, some of the mentioned ones have huge roles and bring some of the spiciest lore bombs in the game so far. These factions are the Fatui, the Lightkeepers, the Frostmoon Scions, the Wild Hunt, and the Snowland Fae. Like every artifact lore, all of them have hard words that can be difficult to understand, which is why your boy here is to retell the story behind these artifact sets, and we'll do some theory crafting after I retell you the lore. I'll make this artifact's lore in two parts because there's a lot that we need to talk about. This first artifact is the finale of the Deep Galleries because that artifact has the most connection with this event, and I would say is the chronologically correct with the two artifact sets. With that said, don't forget to give this video a like and comment so the channel can be noticed by the algorithm. My name is Glitchxcity and I make lore and commentary videos on this channel to keep you company. So, each part of this artifact sets always mention a girl following her master's guidance. The girl is said to be able to venture the abyss, which likely means this girl and her master is none other than Skirk and her master Surtalogy. The lore behind these artifact sets are basically Skirk's discovery, and her end goal is to find the Voyager mentioned in the artifact set. We also learn that Surtalogy is the magical sword master, which means if he is a playable character, then he'll either be a sword user or a claymore user, which makes sense because Surtalogy's name was taken by a Greek god by the name of Surtur. Levatin! While the artifact's order is from the flower, the real beginning was from the bloom, so I will start the story from there. Once there was a voyager from afar. She was a scribe whose real undying body slumbered in a distant celestial disconstruct, while her mind drifted away all across the cosmos, traveling every world, observing their civilization, charting people and civilizations that are fated to perish, but was duty-bound to never interact with these civilizations. One day, she came across an unremarkable tiny world inhabited by dragons called Teyvat at the edge of the spiral arm, and was jolted when she saw a wheel that shone brighter than anything she had ever seen from the civilizations that she ever visited. This wheel was none other than Nibelung before he was corrupted by the abyss. Unable to suppress her wonder and sorrow, she eventually broke her duty's rules and talked to the uncorrupted Nibelung, warning him of Teyvat's inevitable demise and inviting him to journey beyond the stars. However, despite knowing the truth, Nibelung refused her offer because he is unable to leave his people. He instead created a pact with the Voyager, asking her to return later and bear witness to the path he has chosen, where he will lead his people to journey beyond the stars. However, when the Voyager returned, the world she remembered completely changed. Nibelung was nowhere to be seen. The world is now bound by the four shining shades, or more specifically, the fourfold shackles. The light realm is now split into 7 elements, and the world along with the 3 radiant moons are now ruled by what the book of Before Sun and Moon says, the Winged One, the heavenly principles. Bewildered by Nibelung's disappearance, the Voyager starts to investigate what is going on. Unwilling to disturb the new ruler that is the heavenly principles, she once again broke the rules of her kin and cast her consciousness into the body of a young boy in the Golden City, listening to debates of the people. Humans in the Golden City question the divine and voiced progress in knowledge, thus angering them. Having angered the angels by questioning their progress, the priests of the Golden City argued on how to quell their wrath. They accuse each other to find the true culprit, so the culprit be the one that pleads forgiveness to the divine envoys. However, the Voyager, in the body of a youth boy, slipped past through the guards and refuted their arguments of heresy along with their inconsistency in their concept of sin. The young boy said, "If sin comes from the pursuit of knowledge, then ignorance is the true doctrine. If from rebellion, then only the lamp is truly righteous. If sin must be atoned for with blood, why is it said to stem from humanity? If the laws are perfect and flawless, why fear the act of inquiry? The chief priest, who saw the youth, found his words full of heresy and sin. With that, he said to the youth, "O heretical speaker, if, as your eloquent words would suggest, you truly hold that grievous sin is but the delusion of mere mortals, then let you be the one to drink from this cup of burning wrath. Go to the ashen silver tree and plead your case before the very envoys who have cast judgment upon us." The ashen silver tree is none other than the Irminsul tree, and the youth eventually descend to the underground, meeting the first angel. He inquired all the forbidden origins of Teyvat, causing the angel to tremble at his words. However, the youth also told the angel of his origins, singing to her dreams of beauty that had never yet graced her mind. The angel saw the reflection of herself in the eyes of the youth's star-shaped pupil that she had never known. It was love that was not permitted by law, a freedom that the skies would never permit. As her heart fluttered for no reason, her eternal star crown shattered as she discovered love and freedom for the first time. The angel then tells the boy the secrets of creation, the most forbidden and unspeakable secrets. The youth swore an oath to stand by the first angel's side in rebellion against the heavenly principles, and the angel kissed his forehead as countless icy flowers bloomed from the Irminsul tree. However, this act of defiance was not left unwitnessed. 3 moon goddesses were the witness of this, yet they themselves left with more audacious thoughts after witnessing such an act. Eventually, the Golden City has gone busier, with the furnaces of the Golden City forge countless face spirits from day and night. They used the fallen Frostmoon's light into flawless blood and flesh. Such authority was once the heavenly principle's divine prerogative, but now handed by the first angel to the mortals by using the forbidden methods of creation, and dreamt that one day these fake creatures will create a perfect being that could merge with the world. She told her lover, the youth, that she envisioned a world where the nations will no longer yearn for heavenly mercy, the cities built by the humans will rise beyond the stars, and gods can live alongside humans where there will be no more sadness, tears, nor death. Yet this did not last long. The heavenly principles noticed this act of defiance and sent celestial nails to the Golden City. The face shrieked as they turned into icy silver mist. In the space of only a single night, the splendor of the Golden City was ruined by the frost-laden winds. The first angel was punished by the heavenly principles, stripped from her name and form, and from that moment onward, a curse fell upon her kin. If they dare gaze into another's eyes, and to one alone offer the love that was meant for all, then not only would their divine beauty crumble into the wind, but their minds would fall to dust, until from the fallen ones remains a silly would rise, forever drifting in search of fading memories to consume. As per records of Jueyun, the two were punished, with them separated for eternity and half their memories completely wiped. The angel turned into a silly, while the voyage's whereabouts are unknown to anyone. To the girl and her master, the voyager could likely be in the spiral abyss. That was a tale. I kid you not, I tried so hard to not make this too long and without any dialogues, but I was so engrossed in the story that I can't help but make this story a little bit longer than I initially wanted. Actually, tell you what, do me a favor, if this video reaches 200 likes, I'll use my degree to a good use and make this artifact lore into an illustrated video like Minsleaf's and Ashikai's video, but added with voiceovers and dialogues. That's all that I ask, 200 likes. Of course, you can always let me know what you think in the comments. That said, I also want you guys to know that if I were to make that video, I'll be doing that all by myself, except the voiceovers of course, just like how I create this video all by myself. You can help support me by subscribing to this channel because that'll help this channel be pushed by the algorithm, and that lets me know that I'm doing a good job. With that said, let's move on to the theory section. Before we get into the actual theory, there's some interesting things that you need to know. Frostmoon Scions are known to praise the moon, and since the Golden City was also known to praise the three moons, these people are now what we know as the Frostmoon Scions. The Lightkeepers is an organization in Outcry that was aided by the people of Frostmoon Scions, and now we learn that the Frostmoon Scions live on an island called Hisi Island. The Golden City was soon revealed to be Hyperborea according to Balat of the Fjords, and we'll talk about that later at the end. The Fae being mentioned in this artifact set is also likely the Snowland Fae, which means the first Khaenri'ahn is likely from the ancient civilization of Hyperborea as well, or could also be one of the angels. Speaking of that, you also need to know a few things about the angels. You see, Deep Gallery's Lost Crown reveals something very interesting about the angels, probably something that we never expected, and reveals the biggest reason why Ochkan is so against praising Yohual de Jutin. That said, let me read you a verse. Seriously, let me read you a part of the artifact's lore. It was an age when the unknowing masses still bowed to the sky's decrees, when the Dawn Star's royal court still hung high above the clouds. Magnificent, noble creations descended from the light itself, and the mortals, unable to look upon their true visages, called them angels. Their pale silver wings shimmered like the moonlit flames. Their heads were adorned with crowns of sevenfold radiances, wrought of the bones of the earth and stars of the sky. The name upon those crowns was the love promised unto all creatures by the heavenly God, or perhaps a mandate to rule over the nations of the earth. Well, there you have it. The sevenfold radiances is definitely the seven elements, since the artifact did say the light realm refracts into seven radiances, and we learn from both Enkanomiya and Yohual de Jutin that the light realm and human realm were both used together to create the seven elements to combat the abyss better. It's likely, after the betrayal of the first angel, all of them start to only serve humanity in their own way, hence why Yohual de Jutin finds Kapitan's offer more promising than executing Mavuika for the sake of extending her lifespan. Not only that, we also learned from before Sun and Moon and this artifact that the fake sky was indeed created by the heavenly principles using their eggshells, but the angels used that eggshell to create the fake sky. Not gonna lie, this reminds me of Pokemon Platinum, where the Dex entry of Arceus says that he was born from an egg, and in Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, we see him using his power to make a newly born legendary trio from Sinnoh. That's just a very unique reference that I found, but let's get back on topic. There's also one more interesting thing that we need to talk about. You see, the artifact set refers to the first angel's crown as feathers, not feathers. Fetters, F-E-T-T-E-R-S. If you don't know what fetters means, the synonym of this word is restraint. This likely means that all angels are indeed created and forever bound to the heavenly principles for the sake of maintaining order, and they cannot disobey them. You know, I find this interesting. To some, maybe that makes sense, but in my personal humble opinion, no, it's not. I don't mean the lore doesn't make sense, but the way the heavenly principles cast down disorder in a world that they stole, that's yikes. I would find it to be a fair thing if Teyvat is their creation, but since this is a world that they stole from the dragons, then it's not surprising if people find the heavenly principles to be purely evil. It's gone as far as everyone, including the Shades, rebel against them, so it's safe to say that everyone truly hates this control freak. So Dawit, sorry about that. You gotta accept the truth, buddy. Imagine if the heavenly principles is just a part of Anna controlling Zevad, but that's a completely different type of rabbit hole that I don't want to talk about. We still yet to know what are the secrets that both the angel and the Voyager shared with each other. But I would assume that the Voyager's secrets of Teyvat is the forbidden knowledge before the heavenly principles somehow make that knowledge refused by the world. The other possibility could be how the world is created and faded to its demise. I also would like to think that maybe the Voyager shared what is the heavenly principles truly are, and what they are is perhaps the forbidden knowledge. In the Deep Gallery's echoing song, there's a line that says this. Alas, that your ruler would dare to blaspheme such noble beings. Even the demonic sculptures of bloody nightmares would delight in tormenting souls would be taken aback by such cruelty. O down maiden who has never known love, let me stand as the enemy to your loss. Raise your eyes to the stars as you should, for the sake of all beings imprisoned by your ruler. Let me be your sword, your shield, your guide, your unpardonable conspirator in rebellion. If that's not nail in the coffin that the heavenly principles are evil, then I don't know what is. Since we talk about the forbidden knowledge, let's talk about the heavenly principles themselves. You see, these artifacts have some of the most load bombs that I have ever seen. Heck, I would even go as far as to make this artifact equal to the book of Before Sun and Moon. That's how big the lore in this artifact goes. The angels, the Irminsul tree, Nibelung, the Voyager, the three moons, and potentially the first Khaenri'ahn are involved. From what I can tell in this artifact, it seems that the three moon sisters were indeed part of Teyvat before the heavenly principles came. It's also interesting that the Moon Sisters were actually on board with the first Angel and the Voyager. Yes, they witnessed it, and it's likely that the Angel and the Voyager did not notice it, but the Scions described the Frostmoon to actually use her own radiance to create the fake creatures. But what makes the Heavenly Principles go as far as to become this much of a control freak? There are a few theories that I came up with, but the only thing that I can think of to be the most possible, and actually one of my older theories that I created, is that the Heavenly Principles could likely lost their home. If I were to guess, their home could likely experience its own demise, and instead of them being destroyed along with it, they escaped their world. It's important to note that the four shining shades are created by the heavenly principles when they descended to Teyvat, so it's natural to say that they're the only one remaining from their world. But what is their world? Since they're described as winged one, then their kin could likely be someone like them, like perhaps heavens. It's even more possible that they're not even a god, but someone that could be equally important. There are two references that I find very similar to the heavenly principles, that being an Ars Goetia demon by the name of Phoenix and a primeval god by the name of Phanes. Phoenix is a demon that has 20 demonic legions under his command. He is also someone who hoped to return to heaven and usually is in the shape of a phoenix who is known to resurrect from death. He is an excellent poet, teaches science, and is very loyal to his conjurer. As for Phanes, he is an androgynous god who was born from the cosmic egg created by Kronos and intertwined with a serpent. Since he is god of light, he is also associated with the goddess of night, Nyx, to create both daytime and nighttime. He is also said to have died but then resurrected by Zeus. With those references, we can theorize that the heavenly principles did experience death before, and likely their world experienced the destruction from something similar to the abyss. They're likely to have resurrected and become who they are now, and in order to protect themselves and possibly to honor whoever gave their current power, they took interest in Teyvat, stole it, and established the rules that we see today. Since Waksaklahudubahkan, or his real name that now we know is Kukulkan, also described the heavenly principles to throw humans to Teyvat, then it's likely that they're the only survivor of the deities in their world and brought the surviving humans along with them. In my very humble opinion, the heavenly principles likely have a very tragic backstory because let's be real, the real antagonist in this game is the heavenly principles, and we are told so many times by the game from Before Sun and Moon, Flowers of Paradise Lost, Fossil Lore, the dragons, and now this artifact set. This is something that I learned from art school, and according to my professor, villains need to have a backstory that can justify their actions, where it's usually a tragic one. This includes anti-heroes or morally grey characters as well, which is why Arlecchino is such a well-written character. The heavenly principles themselves, while hinted by the game as the antagonists, can be considered as morally grey because the reason they do that is to protect humanity. So if anyone dare to stand in their way, then their reason to be angry is justified, but also not really, because for one, they stole Teyvat, and secondly, they're a control freak, and third, they hid secrets that not even the angels should know, and even shackles them with crowns to mandate the nation. Okay, we're getting off topic here, and sorry that I geek about art. Let's continue with the next theory. I actually talked about Nibelung in one of my previous videos, and while half of the theory section is true, the other half is not, and is already debunked by this artifact set. But let's take the parts that are true. You see, I still believe that Nibelung is indeed the second who came, and is also the second descender, because the artifact set literally mentioned that Nibelung's will is so radiant that even the Voyager wants to take him with her. Some documents, more specifically Rene's, suggest that epithet of descender is used only for those who prove capable of transcending Teyvat's quotations laws, and is not a blanket term for all external beings, which is the reason why the Traveler's sibling is not a descender, and even Rene wants to become a descender, hence why the Narcissan Cruise or the questline happened in the first place. The murals in the game also still support this theory, because we learn in the recent world quest that Xiuquatl laid waste to Natlan's ley lines, but he never really rose from the War of Vengeance since Nibelung died after that. Not only that, the murals also showed a dark winged dragon, which is the same description to Nibelung. However, the Gnosis was created after the Heavenly Principles and the one who came after made an agreement with each other. So, who is that? So here is the theory. It's borderline fanfiction at this point, and since the identity of the second who came is little to unknown, then it's likely that the second who came is indeed Nibelung, and he created a deal with the Heavenly Principles. In order to keep the remaining of his people alive, they used the remains of the third descender, in this case likely to be the Voyager's remains, to be the vessel of the Gnosis. Since the Voyager is described to have their real body encased somewhere on the cosmos, then only the form of the youth's body was used, but the Voyager's mind is still adrift, possibly even badly injured at this point. We also learned that the Gnosis is the remains of the third descender from Skirk, and the lore of this artifact set is basically Skirk's discovery after getting her instruction from Surtology, so it's likely that the third descender is the Voyager. Ballad of the Fjords also mentioned distinct similarities between the Voyager and the Angel, but I personally don't want to take it into account yet, because the artifact set mentioned the Voyager cast her consciousness into a youth born from humble birth, while the boy in the polearm is mentioned to discover the city of gold and white. It could be that the polearm combines the story of how the Voyager found the city, and the young boy is referred to the Voyager cast her body to the youth, and I find it interesting too how the polearm mentions their names, Ajax and Snegurochka. I am not kidding when I say Ajax, literally the same name as Child's real name. It's mentioned in the weapon. Maybe his family just took the name Ajax because of the story, but who knows. I don't want to theorize too much on Child because his lore is already clear at this point. However, there's also something that I need to talk about. You see, Khaenri'ahn was a nation that has no and will not bow to gods. Since the youth is described to be someone with star eyes, this likely means that the youth, or perhaps the Voyager, is the first entity that established Khaenri'ahn. Maybe the youth's remains were used, but since the Voyager's mind is presumably still intact, then she probably escaped and made her way to the underground and established a new civilization. The final civilization, and apparently what we are currently experiencing according to Rene, was Crown Arya, which in this case likely to be the ending of Genshin Impact's Teyvat storyline, freedom from the gods. Spiral Abyss is described as a massive underground city constructed by an ancient civilization long gone, which either there's another civilization that we have yet to know, or this could be a dynasty of Khaenri'ahn before the Crimson Moon dynasty. Skirk also said to venture the Spiral Abyss in hopes to find the Voyager. So either Spiral Abyss is a gateway to Teyvat, or it is a gate to an ancient civilization that we yet to know. Possibly Crown Arya, but I doubt that's the case because according to Rene, that's the cycle that we are currently experiencing. Finally, let's end this theory video with the new area in the future, the golden city called Hyperborea. I am sure this place will be a new explorable area in the future because Natlantia is indeed the city of Talon as to what old people of Natlan would call it. Since that's the case, then Hyperborea could likely be a name of the civilization, but the city itself could be named in another way, since Remuria is the name of the civilization from the city of Capitolium. With the way this artifact set describes it, we can safely assume that we'll learn everything about the loss of paradise that Rene's notes mentioned in Hyperborea. It seems that Rene's note in itself is a huge spoiler for what is to come because everything from his notes are very accurate. Natlantia is indeed all about dragons that try to destroy that land in order to create a new civilization, while Remuria is also relating to humanity coveting what belonged to the heavenly principles and bringing tsunamis to destroy the unified civilization. This is also likely linked to the time when the eternal moon shattered and brought flood to Tevat. Speaking of unified civilization, it seems that Hyperborea is one of them. Hyperborea, Remuria, the Old Natlan, the Inverted City Under the Chasm, and Enkanomia are so far hinted as unified civilization, with the Old Natlan being to what the current Natlan we see today. I only say Old Natlan because they refer to the city of Tolan as Natlantia, which is aligned with Rene's notes, but that's just how I see it. That being said, I am excited with what they're cooking next. What are your thoughts about the lore in this artifact set? You have your own theories? Let me know in the comments. Jana!